Paul Hunter, one of the most charismatic snooker players ever. He was full of guts, determination, flair and style. 3 times a Masters champion, twice a Welsh Open winner, taken from us far too soon. Born in Leeds on the 14th of October 1978, Hunter quickly became a teenage sensation and won many amateur junior events, which he attended with his father. He won the English Doubles Championship in 1992 before leaving school at 14 to focus on his snooker career. He was runner-up in the 1995 English Amateur Championship, losing 8-7 to fellow potential wonder kid David Gray before turning professional later that year. At the 1996 Welsh Open, during his first season on tour, Hunter reached the semi-finals, losing out to former world champion John Parrott, and in doing so became the youngest player to reach the semi-final of a ranking event. Paul won his first major ranking event title at just 19 by winning the 1998 Welsh Open in Newport, making 3 centuries in the final en route to defeating John Higgins 9-5. He quickly ascended the world rankings, being ranked 24th at the age of 20, but by 23 was in the top 10 in the world. But to make a video about Paul Hunter, it would be a cardinal sin to do so without mentioning one event, the Masters. In 2001, Paul defeated Matthew Stevens, Peter Ebdon and Stephen Hendry en route to the final, where he was faced with the wily Irishman, Fergal O'Brien. After the first session, Fergal led 6-2 and was the clear favourite to win the tournament. In a now notorious stunt, his manager Brendan Parker instructed him to revert to Plan B, which, as Hunter said to The Guardian, it's B for bonk. He and his equally blonde girlfriend Lindsay retired to their hotel room. In the evening, Paul Hunter played one of the best sessions of snooker ever seen on television, making 4 centuries and 2 further 50+ breaks in recovering from the 6-2 deficit to win 10-9 and clinch his first Triple Crown title. The year later, Hunter found himself again in the final after beating Stephen Lee, Peter Ebdon and Alan McManus. This time, however, he faced sterner opposition against Welsh giant Mark Williams. Again, Hunter had to recover from a huge deficit, with Williams leading 5-0 at one stage. The game was of less quality than the previous year, but Hunter showed his battling qualities once again and won 10-9 to win his second Masters title, and in doing so became only the 3rd player to retain a Masters. The most famous of Hunter's 3 Masters wins came 2 years later, however, in 2004 against the Rocket Ronnie O'Sullivan. I like to call this final the Alice Band final. A long-haired Paul Hunter faced a long-haired Ronnie O'Sullivan in arguably one of the stylish matches of snooker ever seen. Ronnie started like an exocet, taking the 7-2 lead, before Paul began to ate away at this. Paul came back, like in his other finals, to win 10-9, making 5 centuries in the process. Only Stephen Hendry and Ronnie O'Sullivan have won more Masters titles than Paul, which is a testament to his quality. The 3 Masters titles that Paul won were huge for his profile, but it wasn't just the wins that made him so special. Nicknamed the Beckham of the Baize for his long hair, stylish looks and charisma, Paul was one of the young snooker players in the 2000s that was helping to grow the game. Alongside Ronnie O'Sullivan, Paul was a trailblazer. He was renowned for his aggressive attacking snooker, and O'Sullivan himself has compared Paul to Judd Trump for his style and attacking play. He was a born fighter, as shown in his big wins, but he had to summon all of these qualities in March 2005 when he was tragically diagnosed with a rare form of cancer known as neuroendocrine tumours. Paul continued to play on the tour, playing throughout the whole 2005-2006 season, whilst undergoing chemotherapy. He put in some good displays, such as beating Jamie Burnett 9-8 at the UK Championship after trailing 7-4 at one point, but after the 2006 World Championship admitted he had been in continuous pain and that he would take a year out to devote his time on beating cancer. Following a members' vote on the 27th of July 2006, the sport's governing body announced its rules would be changed to allow Hunter to sit out the entirety of the 2006-2007 season, with his world ranking frozen at 34. Unfortunately, however, Paul Hunter died on the 9th of October 2006, aged 27, cutting a glittering career painfully short. Many snooker stars attended his funeral, and prior to Premier League snooker matches on the 12th of October 2006, players, staff, referees and the fans stood for a minute's silence in memory of Paul. Following his death, fellow professionals Stephen Hendry, Mark Williams, Jimmy White, Matthew Stevens and Ken Doherty led immediate calls for the Masters Trophy to be renamed in Hunter's memory, which was ruled out at the time. But in 2016, World Snooker Chairman Barry Hearn committed to renaming the Masters Trophy in Hunter's honour, stating that the organisation had messed up by not doing so sooner. But I don't want to remember Paul Hunter that way. I want to remember him as the truly sensational snooker player that he was. I often wonder what might have been if he had continued his career and was still playing today. Where would he be ranked? How many titles would he have won? Well, I thought I'd end this video by speculating a little. Paul Hunter made 114 career centuries, and as you can see from this graph, was on an upward trend until he was diagnosed with cancer. As a break builder, Paul was highly proficient, but I wouldn't quite class him in the Stephen Hendry or Ronnie O'Sullivan league. However, when looking at John Higgins' century graph, you can see clear similarities. I think it would be fair to suggest that Paul's century scoring would have improved into his 30s, so I actually think he would be somewhere between 800 and 1000 centuries by now, right at the top of the game. I think it would also be fair to suggest that Paul's quality as a player and his professionalism would have seen him thrive in the modern snooker environment. Let's not forget, Paul died before Barry Hearn took over as the sports chairman and the influx of snooker's tournaments happened. Therefore, by now I think he would have won over 30 ranking events, including multiple Triple Crowns. But here is the big question. How many world titles do I think he would have won? This is a really difficult question to answer. Players such as Neil Robertson, Judd Trump and Shaun Murphy, who I think are world-class players with similar century rates and trajectories, only have one world title each. Mark Selby and Ronnie O'Sullivan have seemingly dominated the past 15 years at the Crucible, with 4 titles each, and it would be difficult for me to say that they would have won less if Paul was alive. However, I do think Paul would have been a world champion, and I'm going to stick my neck out and say he would have won at least 2, maybe 3. I just think his mental toughness, attacking style, and his obvious improvements before he died would have meant he would have been one of the best players in the world for a long time, and would have been world number 1 too. In 2026, Paul Hunter will have been dead for 20 years, which is such a shame, and boggles my mind considering it feels like only yesterday that I was watching him play live. Paul Hunter may have gone too soon, but his legacy endures. In every comeback, every attacking break, every young player chasing flair. He's forever the master.